Have you ever had the dream of buying a bunch of cash flow positive real estate, replacing your income, quitting your job, and retiring early? Me too. So I've spent thousands of hours researching some of the most well-known real estate investors of our time. And what I've discovered is that exactly 0 of them have built their wealth via positive cash flow. So in this video, I'm gonna be covering why positive cash flow in residential real estate is a myth. I'm gonna be covering what you can do instead, and I'm gonna be covering what kind of properties you should buy instead. Let's take it back to 2017. I was a plumber working 50 to 60 hours a week on average. Hated my job, I was exhausted, my body was completely broken down, I had no routine in my life, I was just completely at the mercy of the plumbing gods and whatever they wanted me to do because I was on call and working night shift and all of these things, and that's when I started researching a way out of this. And then I found real estate investing. And then over the next couple years, I consumed thousands of hours of real estate investing content. And then I tried every single method of active real estate investing that all these people were talking about. I tried flipping in Vancouver, I tried the BRRRR method, I tried all these things, and unfortunately Vancouver's just a shit market to do anything in other than buy property or develop. Then I came across the idea of just straight up buying cash flow positive real estate. And I figured if I bought enough of these properties, which I only needed like 5, and it could replace my income as a plumber, and then I could, get out of plumbing and just do whatever I wanted all day. So then I bought my first property on the other side of the country in a city called Windsor, Ontario. It was $150,000 and it cash flowed $300 a month. I sold that property 4 years later for $290,000. And when I sold it, I had $20,000 in my bank account purely from the cash flow that I was receiving. And the reason why that was because I was actually able to bump up the rent somewhere in my second year of ownership from like $300 positive cash flow to around $700. Now, some of you might be thinking like, well, you had 20 grand in your bank. That sounds like positive cash flow to me. And yeah, that's true. However, I was one repair away from all of that evaporating. One roof repair, one bad tenant, one foundation repair, one furnace, driveway siding, flooring paint, you name it. All it would take is literally one bad thing for 4 years of cash flow to be wiped out. And this is the reality with residential real estate investing that people don't realize. You are never going to be able to own enough residential real estate to replace your income. It is not a real thing. And so much for me went right on this property. Like the fact that I was able to bump up the rent basically 30% in the second year that I owned it. The fact that I had 2 separate tenants, which did absolutely nothing bad. They were great. They were 10 out of 10. They kept the place amazing. Everything went right for me. So I would imagine that this is starting to make some sense to you. So what's the alternative? Well, I found that what these investors were doing were they weren't using the cash flow offensively. They weren't like, oh yeah, if I could buy this property and get some cash flow, then I can take the cash flow and I can invest it over here, or I could quit my job. They weren't looking at it that way. They were looking at the cash flow from a defensive metric point of view. The cash flow was there to build a reserve somewhere in a bank account, so when these repairs came up, the money was already there for them. Cash flow was there to protect their ability to hold on to the asset during downturns in the market. So my new outlook is that if you can protect the asset via some other way, then the cash flow isn't necessary. So an example of this would be, let's just say instead of buying a property that cash flowed $300 a month positive, you bought a property that was cash flow neutral. So instead of having the $300 a month positive cash flow there to build the reserve, you project out that in the next 5 years, you're gonna have some type of major repair. So you need that reserve. Take $300 a month positive cash flow, which you don't have because you own a cash flow neutral property, times it by 60, because that's 5 years, 60 months, and you get $18,000. So in 5 years of owning the cash flow positive property, you should have $18,000. Well, why don't you just take that $18,000 from day one when you buy the property, take your extra 18 grand, set it aside, and put it in an interest-bearing account. That way, you have the reserve to protect the asset. I know people say, well, this lowers your ROI because you're investing more capital. Now I need more capital. I get it. The problem with the positive cash flow narrative is that the only properties that currently cash flow positively in today's market are in these suburban markets like Red Deer, Alberta, or somewhere on the outskirts of Saskatoon. And that's great. You're getting the cash flow, but the problem with these markets is like, aside from the last 2 anomaly years, these are markets where over the course of the next 5 years, your property is going to appreciate like 1% year over year. And then you're not even going to have that cash flow because some repair is going to come up. And even when we go look back at the property, the cash flow positive property that I actually purchased what made me money? It wasn't the 20 grand cash flow. It was the 150K of appreciation. And I got really lucky because Windsor, Ontario isn't notorious for being an appreciating market. And in fact, the 15 years in that market before I bought that property saw no appreciation. So instead of looking for properties that give you passive income so I can retire early, this is what I would do. I would purchase quality real estate in supply constrained markets. When you buy, let's just say, for example, land in the lower mainland, you know every single year that the overall supply for that product, let's say a detached home, is going down while the demand for it is going up. Even if the price of a detached home in Langley goes like $2 million, and like who the hell is gonna buy that? There's still gonna be detached homes getting knocked down every single year and replaced with condos and townhomes. Even if it isn't end users buying this product, somebody's gonna have to buy it because the demand is going up and we need to build more homes. So every year, less and less detached homes exist because there's no new land to build them on, so we just work with what we currently have. And on the flip side of that, even if you buy a townhome or a condo in these supply constrained markets, you can't just be like, oh yeah, that raw plot of land over there, let's go build a 400 unit master plan community. No, you can't do that. You have to go to 5, 6, 7, 8 detached homes in a row, knock on everybody's door, get everyone to agree to the terms that you're offering them, the price, the closing date, all these things, and convince everyone in a row to sell so you can knock all these homes down, go through the permit process, and then build there. And then you're displacing people from these current homes, which are also gonna need somewhere to live, and they're gonna move into condos and townhomes somewhere. When you buy in these cash flow positive markets, which we've discussed aren't even really cash flow positive, you're buying into markets where there's hundreds of thousands of acres of raw land. And it's not that they won't appreciate, because as we've seen, they do appreciate, they have to because the cost to build goes up, but you're not gonna get that explosive year over year growth over a long time frame like you would buying in a supply constrained market. And if you're worried about your ability to hold these assets during a downturn, well then you should set aside capital from day one or put down more capital so it is a cash flow asset when you buy it. If you want to buy or sell, give me a call. I'm that Agent Kelly. I'll make moves to move you. Peace.